is up, everyone? So, funny thing happened when I was doing the. Excuse me, sorry. When I was doing the last playthrough. So basically, part 4 of Terror Games in the Dark for Detention. Somehow it did not encode. And I'm usually really good about recording the stream at the same time in case something like that happened. But for whatever reason, I think I accidentally actually stopped the recording rather than started it. So, incompetence on my part. So we're going to do this one more time because I don't really want an incomplete game on here. Even though I think I do have a couple of them on there. I think I did not finish Lone Survivor just because it just got a little too long, and like I was more worried about my character eating than anything, so the fun in that game kind of disappeared. But I really like this game, so I'm going to do I'm going to try and get the conclusion again. Hopefully it'll start at a point where it actually makes sense. I hope I don't do a lot of backtracking, I guess is the point of it all. So we're going to go ahead and do it one more time, and hopefully this won't get lost because it's still recording. I'm not sure it's because I had some like issues with streaming the video, so it could have been that. But let's see if I continue, it'll just go to the end, so we'll just go to a chapter. I think there's only 4 chapters, yeah, so we'll just do the 4th chapter. And confirm. Yeah, we'll do it. So this is Detention for one more time. I hope it saves. For my next game, I think I will do a real quick kind of retro one. It's a thing called Castlevania. I think it's a hack of Castlevania called the Holy Artifacts, which is a pretty cool game. But for right now, I want to do Detention. Okay, so it picks up where Ghost Ray appears. So, just go ahead. I'm just going to play this real quick too, guys, because, I mean, you've already seen this part. Well, at least I've already played through this part, but I'll give a little bit of commentary. I hate that laughing. Fengration, that's her name. Fengration. What do you fear the most? Losing myself, I guess. Believe that we are all born free. Eager to walk on your own path. And afraid of losing yourself. You are me. So, obviously, if you didn't join me for the stream last time, the idea is that you're trying to atone for something, or not really atone, maybe, just kind of accept fault in something. And Feng Rei Shin here did something really bad. That is the reason why she's in this situation in the first place. I think I remember mentioning this, but you can't hold your breath anymore. You can only walk forward. There's very few doors you can open in this game now. And I'm just going to go ahead and zip past it. You can go through this door right here. And then if you kind of notice, the ghost version of you is right here. So the way forward is the path to your past. However, the road ahead has crumbled. Lead me anywhere and I will follow you like a shadow. Okay, so Shadow Fangration cannot follow right now, so let's go ahead and, I guess, oh, got it. There we go. Then she'll start following. There's a little trick to this. You can't open this door because it can't open. If you try to talk to this girl, all she says is the sliding door is wrapped in barbed wire. And I guess these are supposed to represents like the ghost of her past. They're like stuck in this sort of limbo. Now, you need to somehow get that ghost to stay on that side while you come down on the other side. So what you have to do is you have to walk. I feel like I'm doing Alan tutorial. Okay, guys, what you gotta do here is you gotta walk over here and then please subscribe. I don't know if you guys know Alan tutorial. It's just I just recently found it and I'm completely addicted to it. Oh, okay, cool. So again, one of those other ghosts. Who can be calling it at a time like this? It's like her sins of her past are just, you know, they keep on going around and around. Go ahead and go in through here. Hey, tutorial heads. And there she is across the way. Remember when you were enrolled so full of passion, participating in every school activity, showing off your academic abilities, grabbing the attention of your peers and teachers. Then things took a turn for the worse at home. All the attention quickly turned into unwanted scrutiny. So you chose to escape. The world is immeasurable vast. There is always a place to hide. You are me. So this allows you to go through this door now and transcend that huge gap. I am doing a tutorial. This place is completely lifeless. Okay, so this is very important. Can't walk any further. It's a little cutscene. That guy's burning books. Remember to thoroughly destroy each book and add the spirit money to throw them off. There can't be any intact book pages, or else this would be for naught. So they're trying to get rid of books, but not in the way that you think. So hey, Wei, you're closer with Miss Yin. I heard that she had to flee the country overnight. Is that true? I'm not sure. She never said anything about leaving. So they're not really burning books in protest. It's more like they're burning books to cover up the fact that they have them. Unlike Miss Yin, we don't have the connections to guide us to safety. Aren't you afraid? Well, actually, what bothers me the most is, do you know how the reading list got leaked out? Stop asking questions. I am clueless as you. Let's just hurry up and finish this. We don't want to get caught. No, they do not. So, we're back into this weird spirit realm. Written verdict from court. A torn piece of verdict. Cheng Mi Hu, district-level educator, is found guilty with students Wei and other of collusion with communist forces. Cheng Ming-hu is to be put to death after the court's ruling. Wei Chongting pleads guilty to affiliation with communist forces, reading of prohibited texts with rebellious and corrupt thoughts. Will be sentenced to 15 years jail time. Now, I guess if you kind of recall, Cheng Ming-hu is the teacher that Fang Ruixin, or the main character, the girl, Fang Rui, had a bit of a liaison with you know, they basically were sexually active with each other. Which, you know, I guess she's like 17 or 18, I don't know. I don't know what the age of consent Taiwan is. But he was basically, you'll find out why this is happening. So I don't want to spoil it, but let's just move on. Okay, so which way am I supposed to go? Here. There we go, this door. I love this rolling cloud effect. Very unique. The bonfire of hope is almost depleted, diminishing in the wind. It's very Twilight Zone. Okay, and here's this. Some of the book's contents might conflict with your everyday thoughts. But this material will help you engage in reflective and independent thinking. Well, let's call it a day. So basically they have this like sort of secret book club. I do want to remind you all again to never mention the book club to anyone else, for that might put yourself and others in great danger. And I think it's a Wei. And Wei, I'd like to ask you a favor. Yes, monsieur. Is it about the new books? I've already given the list to Mr. Chang. He said the shipping company won't help us anymore, but he'll figure out something out. The government is forcing restrictions on all imports. Soon, the book club might come to an end. Miss Shin, why are things like this? I'm sorry, Wei. There's nothing I can do either. Oh, just one more thing before you go. Mr. Chang never brought us any of those books in the first place, right? Ha! I know I can always count on you. So at this time, I think this is like the 1960s, as I recall. I read about a lot of this since the last playthrough. And this was during the time where they were, you know how in the U.S. we had our own version of the Red Scare. We had basically people, doing witch hunts on every person, most of the people in Hollywood and stuff like this. This is kind of in the same sense, except they basically they basically went after anything that would indicate a person having any type of independent thought. And the other thing is that they blamed everything. It could be anything small, but they blamed everything on, a person being a communist. For example, if, in this case, they have a secret book club. If someone found out about it, they could say, oh, they're having illegal imports and spreading the idea of communism in this text because the government didn't approve of it. And then in the sort of other broader sense, if a person who had an issue with someone just out of the blue, just didn't like a person, he could say, oh, he's like into communism as well. It's a real interesting kind of like time in history. A very sad time because people did not want to kind of share all that. I'm going to go ahead and read this. Return home for burial. Half a century in exile, blacklisted to return home for burial. During the period of martial law, Miss Yin Su Han, that's the teacher right there, was a wanted political fugitive. She was lucky to evade arrest and left the country only to be blacklisted. She traveled the world fighting for human rights and freedom of expression, but unfortunately died of lung cancer at the age of 50. Her last wish was to be able to return her home to her hometown. Now, this wish can be achieved with the lifting of the martial law. So basically, they're carrying her remains back to the hometown. this current day clipping. Did the exact same thing last time I played this game. This game is also available on the Switch if anyone's interested. If anyone has that. Now I'm not one to like say I'm gonna go out buy the Nintendo Switch, but if there were more games like this, like maybe even more exclusive to the Switch, I would actually change my tune, because this is the type of gaming that I'm very interested in, like just raw storytelling. Can I not go? Oh, there we go. Okay, and then we see this sort of this old man walking around. Who is that? If Vic was watching this, he would know. So I'm just occasionally checking these doors. Can't go through here. The old man goes through there, so you're going to go through there as well. Color's slightly different. I love the fact that she's now just kind of cautiously walking. Not really cautiously, I guess more of like a slower paced walk. Let's take a look at this. The door is barred by a broom. There's a note on top of it. Snitcher. Remove the broom. No, there's nothing else to do. So if you kind of listen to it, it's the music that was played to solve the puppet riddle. One half of the puppet riddle, at least. Which I was able to kind of get in touch with my old piano skills. Being Korean, you know, your parents make you play piano. I'm not saying that all parents do that, but all Korean parents seem to do that. And they really should stop, because if they're not really interested in playing the piano, you shouldn't really make them play the piano, because they're just going to end up hating the instrument, and you're going to be out some money. I'm not saying that I have like a small, because of my small history with it, but just listen to your kids. If they don't like it, don't make them do it, because they're just going to hate it. Christ. So it's the old man playing the piano. And he's gone. We're back into this, like, almost Coffin Joe-esque world. Like, if anyone's seen, like, putting up a Coffin Joe movie, those are, like, Brazilian horror films. The only way I can describe it is, like, Brazilian Dracula meets Tales from the Crypt, I guess. Note entry. Excerpt. That time in fear, forcing herself to breed hatred. Who knew that she would take that leap and leave this world behind? Nary a last word because of fear, remorse. The reason remains undecided. I was left with a blur of confused thoughts spiraling through my mind. When I saw the sunlight again, things had changed drastically. My loved ones and teacher went to a higher place. She was buried in an unmarked grave, leaving me a decrepit man. Oh, crap. Looks like the output's a little low, but it's going to be about 30 seconds until it speeds up again. I really hope this doesn't screw with my recording of the stream, just because I don't want this to... I don't want to do this again. I mean, I like the game, but I would rather not play the same game over and over and over again. See, it's green on mine, but it's red on the output. Okay, now it looks like it normalized. Okay. So I'm just going to save it right here, just because I like how it brightens like that. Puts me at ease, I guess. That's real cool because it just kind of forces you out. Now, a lot of people wouldn't like... I think they kind of would look at this in disdain just because at this point, I think that in terms of the gameplay is sort of over and this is the pure storytelling. But this is not one of those kind of games where you fight a boss at the end. In terms of like, you know, fighting a boss, it's more of like a deconstruction of who this character is and like why is she in this situation. I mean, obviously we know she's like some kind of spirit creature and she's in this sort of world that kind of is in two parts, the spiritual world and then also this reality where she's like a ghost. There's a note on the cart. It's like everything that she's done before. There's nothing. There's broken stairs here. Okay. So the idea is that we need to get beyond this. And actually, can we do it right here? Oh no. So she keeps on walking forward. So we kind of need her to stop. So I think what we do, or as I recall, you turn on this light. And she can't walk beyond that light. And then we chat with her. Now she can. Now we can hit this light. Chat with her. Turn off this light. Chat with her again. So, acting immediately on one's determination. This is the philosophy he believed in. He being, I think, the teacher. That someone should take fate into their own hands. With you following him, what ideas do you hold? Take hold of your destiny, live to a laid-back life, or submit to one's fate. I think she should say, take a hold of your destiny. That is a charming thought. So life has gained a goal. Next to him, you found yourself. You are me. So, I mean, I guess you could say that this is the part of the game that you have to play. There are two possible endings, a good ending or a bad ending, but you need to know how to get there. If you've been paying attention throughout the entire game, you kind of will get an idea of it. So, in, you know, some ways, you know, it is like sort of traditional game. No matter how many times this replays, nothing can be unwound. You can never redeem yourself. Okay, so we're going to walk up here. As you can see, this is you with a Instructor Bay. Oh, I had to click. This is the book list I mentioned before. So you're the one who leaked the list. I found it in our teacher's desk. Miss Fang, the country appreciates your assistance. You hear that phrase several times throughout the game. I believe in particular on a phone call of some sort. So you did this. Did you think finding something to rely on would stave off your fear? One day, however, he was gone, just like that. You've lost everything you can depend on. What choice will you make now? Try to take them back, I guess, is the right one. Then the instructor's sharp gaze was stifling. You steeled yourself and performed without hesitation. In that one moment, transforming into a pitless patriot. Easier than you think, right? You are me. I love this look. I love like this cloud roll. I'm not sure if that's just real video and they, or it was like just created in a program, but it really looks nice. It kind of reminds me of I was actually in some of the hurricanes in Florida way long ago. This is back in like 2004, 2005-ish, I think. I think it's 2005. They happened while I was in film school, and then obviously they hit pretty hard. Yeah, it was 2004. But there was a time where we just saw the clouds like floating over, and they were moving this fast. It was absolutely amazing. It sucked that I didn't have power and no air conditioning in the hot Florida sun, but at least the clouds were okay. So there's that mysterious dude. So we're gonna follow him, see where he leads us. Who is he? He's just upstairs. So let's follow him upstairs. And suddenly we're in the rooftop. As you recall, we did see a person who fell off from this height in, I think, part 1 or 2 of the adventure. Take a look at him. Takes a drag. This is really important because if you don't answer any of the questions right for the shadow person of you, then you'll just find her here, and basically she'll just say you're not me, and it'll basically lead you to a scene where you're gonna hang yourself, but it doesn't happen. The idea is that you just kind of relive the game again. And if you look at the yellow paper plane, from the white deer to my white daffodil, fate holds us apart. So let's meet again in another life to our freedom. Okay, and there's really not much you can do here but go through one door. Kind of basically saying that you only have one way to go here. This is your fate. Open the door. Cheng Mi Hu. You are suspected of spreading anti-government propaganda, smuggling banned books, and organizing illegal gatherings. The court has already obtained the necessary evidence. We now arrest you on the grounds of rebellious activities. Do not resist on pain of death. Which, you know, I guess is the final time these two are together. Looks like it will be difficult to escape this time. Fine. Take my head so that I may join my brothers and sisters. Why? Aren't people born to live freely? To think openly, to speak their minds without restriction or fear? Freedom of belief, love, and self-realization. Being with you was a happiness of the simplest and purest form. I couldn't help but think, when we could be hand in hand living an untroubled life. But in the end, this is only a fool's dream. I too am vain, like the daffodils fixated in my grandiosity. The world is not ready for the likes of us. Daffodils died by a river of
只能如铁锈般凋零。
Came rust like into the void. And so that's pretty much it. The revelation is that Feng Ruishan was the person who turned in his own teacher to be basically killed. Her true intention was to blame it on the woman teacher, but because she thought that he was ending the relationship between both of them because he had fallen in love with the older woman teacher, but that kind of was not the case. If you notice in the previous stream, the third one, not the one that I had to replace, metal lodging for laborers, last to be demolished, all to be demolished. So if you did read that, the reason why the teacher wanted her, the woman teacher wanted the male teacher to stop this relationship is that it would actually bring attention to the book club, which was definitely illegal. And this is really cool. So this is the old woman that you see every time you die or get killed by one of the creatures. And she says, alone and wandering forever she goes. She's basically talking about Feng Rei Shin. Pitiful. So, you find out who this person is. Right here, they show you the notebook. Now, it says right here, amnesty certificate. A certificate of amnesty name, Wei Cheng Ting, type of pardon, amnesty, crime declared invalid. So, crime declared invalid. So basically, because of the government change, if you notice, I think the last one, okay. I thought I would. Okay, so what's really cool is I thought I would rot in jail. I didn't expect to live past martial law. People say I am a victim of politics. My crime was written off. My youth is long past. Something lost can never be regained. So this entire notebook is Wei Cheng Ting's notebook. I mean, it originally was in the first place, but we were kind of led to believe that for whatever reason, I guess, what's her name? Feng Rei Shin got a hold of it and started putting her own notes in it. In actuality, it just was his notebook, and the old man is Wei Cheng Ting. So here's a letter from home. This is, I think, everything that you've collected during the course of this game. My son Cheng Ting. Even though I witness sickness and death on a daily basis, this still fills my heart with grief. Your mother's disease was utterly untreatable. I can only hope she died without worrying, without pain. A person's body can be physically locked up, but your mind is always free to go where it pleases. Father hopes you can still get some peace of mind in this situation. Stay warm, stay safe. Your father, Jaizin. So yeah, I mean, this is a very sad notebook because you find out that he's been in jail in every one of these cases. Eventually, Mother still passed away. Father didn't take it well and had to take a break from his clinic. His written words were spirited and calming. They supported me during my darkest days. Here's the written verdict. Cheng Ming-hoon, district level educator. You know, he was found guilty, and then he was in jail for 15 years. He was Wei Cheng's. You find out that his jail sentence was much longer than that. 15 years of my life were taken away by a piece of paper. I can still clearly remember when the military police came knocking and carried me off in front of my mother. Little did I know that was the last time I would see her face. And like, here's a clipping of the burial for Miss Yin Su-han, who was the teacher that, you know, Fei Ring-shen thought she was having an affair with, the older teacher that she was having an affair with. But that wasn't the case at all. She just wanted her to stop because she didn't want her book club to be in peril. And she basically did not want this to happen to all the kids. She knew that was going to happen. Luckily, she was able to avoid the authorities. After being released from jail, I haven't had any contact with Miss Yun. I couldn't believe it at first, but I heard she had passed away abroad due to lung cancer. Like with my mom, my mother, only after seeing her ashes with my own eyes was I able to realize I had lost a familiar part of my heart forever. I mean, this is very depressing. I mean, he's finding out that his world is completely destroyed. Here's another excerpt. This is basically talking about Feng Ration's suicide. She was the one who jumped off the top of the ledge. It doesn't matter what I was feeling back then. Only pain and sadness remains. So, if you notice, these are kind of, I guess, I didn't notice this before, but I guess this is like stuff that he's kind of reflected on. Nary last word because of fear, remorse, the reason remains undecided. I was left with a blur of confused thoughts, so, yeah. It doesn't matter what I was feeling back then, only pain and sadness remains. So, yeah. Kind of get... Do people in Taiwan read from right to left? I'm not really sure, but I guess they do, because like it makes more sense if you read it that way. And so basically, you get the entire story, and as you walk with Wei here, large banyan trees been cut down. It's weathered the storm of generation, yet it fell under sharp edges of human desire. You kind of like go through your past, what you knew as your immediate reality, rather than, you know, just being in jail. And then the credits roll. A very beautiful game. Let's look at the mirror. Time, it rots everything away. Even I can't hide from it. I just really think it's neat that it incorporates you in the end credits. It explains who you are. It explains why you're here. It explains so much about, you know, what happened throughout this entire game. It also like kind of opens your mind to a time in history where things were just crazy. I mean, things are crazy now, but just like keep in mind that like throughout history, things always are crazy. And it's actually up to you to figure out if you want to keep things sane or if you want to, you know, keep them crazy, I guess. Also, well, you know, you can also learn from history. I mean, look at this. Someone's... I often wonder how things get condemned and such. Like, I haven't been to my high school for a very long time. So I wonder what it looks like often. I guess I could do a Google, like a Google map search and take a look at it. Just look at all. This guy just put rape right here, 2000, summer, dick. Let's look up pentagram right here. I don't know what that says. Flanger. I love how you can see, kind of see this newspaper. Notice that's the room that both Ray and Feng Raxian were in the beginning of the game. So all the you know, the entire thing with the blood or that in the collapsed bridge, those didn't actually happen. That's more in the mind eye of like Feng Raxian's like her reality. Because the reality is completely that this guy went to jail for years and years, and the ghost of Feng Ruixian had to kind of learn and cope with what she ended up doing, how many lives she actually destroyed because of, you know, a thing that she just completely misconstrued. So there's like a weird flicker when you do that. So we're just gonna... There's nothing here. It's the only room you can go into. I think it's weird because there's at one point you can go into a roof. You can get to the rooftop. Or actually, you see him on the rooftop and he's just smoking a cigarette rather casually. I love that, how the sun blows into the window. And then there is only this scene right here, which is the scene that we saw him in the beginning. So he's going to go ahead and take a seat. And so there's Feng Ruixian finally sitting with Wei once again, but now she sees that Wei is older and has kind of accepted the pain that she created. And this is where the story ends. What I really like about it is that it's not like her spirit's free. I think she's still, you know, bound to that place, but now she's going to see it how it really is. Just this sort of, like, you know, broken down area. It doesn't go with that entire, what do you call that? That Sixth Sense ending when, you know, oh, they finally realize that they're dead and they move on kind of thing. It's more like the spirits of the world exist, but if they're hanging on to pains and suffering, they're going to experience pains and suffering. Oh, crap. What happened to my screen? Okay, we gotta start starting up again. Sorry about that. Like, it seems like the stream keeps on, like, hopping off, on and off, but I was mentioning before, it's like Rei is actually just experiencing her pain and suffering over and over again in a repeated, like, sequence, a repeated circle, and it never seems to end for her. But finally, when she kind of realizes and accepts, like, the fault of what she did wrong, she's allowed to exist in the present day and finally, you know, kind of escape that purgatory. I mean, who knows? Maybe she does move on or whatever, and they decide not to show it. But I think that would have been the wrong time to show it. I think that if you leave it ambiguous like that, it kind of leaves it up to the imagination. What I really dig about the game also is that, like, it shows us a different culture. It doesn't take place in a high school in, say, Colorado or Kansas or California or Jersey. It takes place in a different country and shows you that political climate. I mean, if they made a movie about this in the U.S., they'd probably change everything, and it wouldn't have that same meaning. They'd probably, like, change it to Twitter or something like that. It was a big thing, and, you know, during the Trump administration or whatever. I mean, I think this still hits that chord. You could apply everything from this into stuff that, you know, we know of today. That chair reminds me of Alan tutorial right there. It just has to be blue. See if there's any. What's this video? Oh, it's just like video. Okay. Chapters, so about. I think I already clicked on something like that. Function. I was wondering if there's any Easter eggs or anything like that. We'll just go ahead and exit. And that was Detention, guys. Yeah, I just wanted to get that out of the way because I just didn't like the fact that my stream got interrupted. I want to mention a couple of things because I did mention this when Vic was joining me on the stream. Last time I streamed this game in its entirely, before it was lost in the bowels of the internet. There's a lot of stuff in terms of like fear that they unlock. I mean, obviously, fear of revealing guilt and stuff like that is very prevalent at the end. But they did kind of like lock into other things. Like, for example, one of the more terrifying things that kind of not terrifying, I guess, but one of the scary things that kind of brought some emotions up to the surface for me was when Feng Rei Shin was in her bedroom and she could hear her parents just screaming at each other, and you can hear like the dad and mom just arguing. You know, just going at it, and then you hear other things like stuff crashing about and like plates crashing about. I don't know if everyone's been through this, but obviously my parents occasionally fought, and sometimes it was really damn scary because they'll get into arguments sometimes here and there. I mean, they still do. But it's like it's like parents fighting. It's like, like a couple's quarrel, I guess. But when when it suddenly, inflates to, they're like throwing shit at each other and stuff, and they're like, shouting at the top of their like lungs and stuff like that. That's not a fun thing to witness, or in my case, listen to while I'm sitting on a toilet, like just coming back from like just school and reading like an Iron Man comic. I read Iron Man back then. And then just hearing your parents just go at it. That's the most terrifying thing ever. Like, you don't know what to do in that kind of situation. You can't ask your parents to stop fighting or anything. Like, they're not going to be listening to you. But you just hear them just like saying like curse words that are in, in my case they were in Korean. Vic, I mean, obviously he shared, in the live chat last time that's not a fun thing. So I can imagine that he's been through a couple of times. I remember one time when I was actually visiting Korea, and my cousins, we were hanging out with my cousins. We couldn't go back into the house because my cousin's parents were they were having a battle. I don't know what it was about because my Korean wasn't that great. To this day, I don't know what it's about because I never brought it up again. I mean, they've been together, and they still are together to the best of my knowledge. But they were apparently just screaming at each other. I just remember this, and I was like in 3rd grade, maybe, or 2nd grade actually. It was the summer after 2nd grade. I just remember them just like yelling at each other and going at it. And it's like a country kind of town. We were across the street on this like sort of big bench where you actually could lay down on. It was that kind of wide. And we just could not go back inside the house because we're just terrified. We didn't want to go in there. They were just like going at it and screaming at each other. And it's not like no one could not hear it. Everyone could hear it. It's just that it's one of those things. So that brought up back a lot of like bad memories while playing this game. And yeah, like obviously the creatures they put in this game are very, scary and stuff like that. But it's like kind of like those like kind of realistic kind of terrors that that remind you or make you, kind of affect you and like put your head in reminds you of a time of when not everything was peachy keen. I mean, there's like others I could like probably name, but I don't want to, just like pour my guts on everything. But that was actually really masterfully done because that was after a period where you're kind of trying to avoid ghosts by holding your breath and trying to walk by them. Excuse me. I mean, it's a real neat thing when a game can do that. When you can actually, and it's actually even a neat thing when a movie can do that. I just remember times when like there was this one movie. I think it's called The Hole. It was actually directed by the guy who did Gremlins 1 and 2. It's a very recent movie. Now, it's not a great film, but like one of the things I did like about it is there's a point where I think the characters have to, in some ways, like relive their fear, and one of their fears was encountering their, I don't know if it was dead father or basically the father was out of the picture kind of thing. But instead of like, being just a normal father, it was this very sort of like it was like an oversized dad. He was like way taller, and the kids were like, I don't know, teenagers, so they were kind of reminiscing time when they were, smaller, younger. And like the dad like takes out a belt, and basically they see it slam down. It's massively huge. It's almost like a like a morning star, almost like a flail or whatever. And it like hits the floor, and you hear it. It hits so hard, dust and particles just like burst up. And yeah, they were just like having a revelation that wow, their father's gonna beat him, and it's gonna hurt like all hell. That's probably how what they pictured as a child, and as an adult, like you would think that fear would go away, but it doesn't really usually go away. So that's really interesting. That's I think what's very similar to that happens in Detention. And yeah, the level of like mental unstableness that a person can have when they're in some kind of situation where they did make this mistake and like they're not taking it well. Obviously, that happened to Ray. I want to also bring up the fact in some scenes in this game that I thought was really neat was when she actually went to go see them. If there's a part where she goes to watch a movie with the teacher. I mean, you don't know it's a teacher until the end, but when she's about to do it, the game suddenly changes from the drab black and white colors to these brightly colored, almost like I want to say like if you're on acid or shrooms, kind of like colors. Like basically, she's like, I think it's what it represents is that she's really high as a kite right now. Not like high as in like she took a molly and now she's like rolling. She's at such a level of emotion where she's so happy because she's with this teacher and they're watching a movie, and like if you notice they like hold each other's hands. So she's kind of high because I guess she's fallen in love, and now she gets to experience this this moment with this teacher. They don't really get into too much details on like how much they get, where their relationship goes, but it probably gets pretty intimate at one point. And maybe it doesn't. Maybe she kind of sees it. She's overblowing the situation. Who knows? But it was a kind of neat departure of the rest of the game. You don't see that in a lot of games like that. You don't see like if it's like a sort of dark, depressing game, you don't have these like moments of humor. Like I feel that like a game like the first Resident Evil, I think that's a mostly humorless game in terms of the intention of the writing. I think there's a lot of like accidental humor in it, like particularly the voiceover. But if you kind of take out that voiceover, there are no points of humor in that game. Resident Evil 2, not really. Resident Evil 4 is more of an action kind of sequence. Resident Evil 3, I wouldn't say had anything either, but I haven't played any of the other ones, with the exception of 7, which I own now, and who knows, maybe I'll stream that next. I haven't really decided. But yeah, like it's kind of cool that like even in the middle of this, you can have that kind of humor that's actually incorporated into the game and in the game's message. Obviously, one of my favorite games is Silent Hill, and it does have humor in it, but it only really is humorous because it's like a alternate like joke ending, like the UFO ending in Silent Hill, which I love. It's such a great ending, and even Silent Hill 2, but it doesn't like the humor's not incorporated. The story or the lighter side is not incorporated the story. Whereas in this game in Detention, it is. So that's kind of neat. I think. I got a lot of good things to say about this game, and I really do urge people to try and play this game. Get it on the Switch, get it on PlayStation 4, get it on Xbox, get it on whatever console that you can get it on. because it's really a remarkable game, and I really do hope that we get more games like this. I mentioned before that this is very similar to another game I played, not streamed yet, but it's called Cat Lady. And before Cat Lady, I think there was a game called Downfall, not based on the life of Adolf Hitler. It's just a game that has to be called Downfall, that has a very similar look and also deals with very similar themes. And throughout the game, you kind of figure out what those themes are. I think, in terms of perspective is also the same too. It's kind of a 2D plane, which I kind of dig. I mean, I love platformers and I love RPGs and stuff like that and action games, but I can't play that all the time. I think a good analogy of this, I think someone used this for comic book once. It's like when you play those like action, fast-paced games, it's great. It's like eating it's like a hot fudge sundae, but no one wants to eat a hot fudge sundae all the time. I can't have a hot fudge sundae as breakfast. I just can't. And I can't have lunch or dinner. Maybe once in a while, yeah. I love hot fudge sundaes, and I'll have it, maybe like this Saturday. But I don't want it all the freaking time. I want some other, I want other substance in my game. And that's why I do gravitate toward adventure gaming, because that is that like substance. It's like a meal. It's not just like ice cream and hot fudge and nuts on top. But yeah, and in terms of the ending, yeah, it is a bit bittersweet. But you can't always have a game where you're just kind of saving a princess, or you're doing something that you can't, it doesn't need to be like you're saving the world. It can be a very more emotional kind of game. I don't feel that we've had that. When I was growing up, definitely, I can't really think of a game that had that kind of same impact. And when I'm say kid, I mean like when I was playing my Nintendo. I think if I definitely played it as a kid, I definitely did not play it as a kid, but I do love the game, and it is my favorite game. Earthbound is kind of close to that. It does have sort of a, I'd say playing Earthbound to me is like playing a Goonies movie or something like that, or a Goonies game. Not the actual Goonies game, but like if you think about the theme of Goonies, or you could say even it's Stranger Things the game. I would actually totally agree with that. That's what Earthbound to me is that when I was watching Stranger Things, I was thinking, this is kind of like Earthbound. But I didn't actually play the kid. I played that later in college when I found out about the game. And I played Mother obviously on the original NES, the original NES version, or the intended NES version, but that again I didn't play that until later. Yeah, you didn't really have these sort of bittersweet endings. I didn't really own a Super Nintendo, so I never played 6, aka 3 here, Final Fantasy. That sorta has a bit of a bittersweet ending. But this one definitely was full on that. I guess maybe the first one that could have been it was either Silent Hill 2, or because I didn't get the bad ending in Silent Hill 1. I think the only thing I did wrong was I didn't save Sybil the cop. I ended up just shooting her with a rifle, but I did get out of Silent Hill with the baby in hand. Then I replayed it to save Sybil. But I never got the bad ending where you find out that Harry Mason's just dead in a car. Which that would have depressed me if I ever got that ending. But this definitely the good ending on this one is not the most I guess desirable outcome. People sometimes have problem with sort of these bittersweet endings. I have a problem with endings that are just left turn, everything is everything goes to shit and the world blows up and stuff like that. There's very few movies where I'm actually okay with that. I don't know what's it called, I was gonna say House by the Cemetery, but not that one. I mean, there's a lot of 70 movies that I do like. I mean, Night of the Living Dead, for example, that's a great ending. It says a lot about the time and everything. Um, but I tend to like kind of gravitate toward Night of the Living Dead, the remake, just because I really dug that ending too. But sometimes people, like I have a friend who just loves endings. Everyone dies at the end, nothing happens, blah blah blah. And yeah, okay, cool. But like I want that kind of like earned, or if that's gonna happen, they gotta make sure that it makes sense. Oh, looks like my stream just ended. Oh, it's starting again. If you didn't get that, basically, if they're going to do an ending that's a downer, it kind of has to kind of make sense. For example, I guess we could say Rogue One. Obviously, all those characters had to die. I mean, we don't see them ever again. No one talks about them. Come on, they can't get away from that. It's like we had this crack commando of people who stole the first Death Star plans, and if they ended up doing like a Ocean's 11 that got away with it clean, then it's like, well, we should send them again to do other stuff because they really helped out destroying the giant battle station that could destroy worlds. Seriously, like, I mean, it did have to kind of lead to that ending, because if they were still around, then why didn't the rebels use them all the time? Just a simple fact. But they did die in the end, and I thought it was a great ending. I thought it had actually a powerful ending. Not the ending, not the part with Princess Leia with her fake mannequin eyes. But, I mean, satisfying. And obviously people love that Darth Vader scene. It's a little bit gratuitous, but I think I kind of dig it just because it was kind of neat to see him go all out like that when we haven't seen him do that in that setting quite yet. We've seen him do a couple things in the next, the trilogy, but it was kind of cool to see Darth Vader unleash, so to speak. But enough. I digress. I mean, I'm getting off topic here. I was talking about Detention, which is a great game. You guys should check it out. And I guess I'll sign off here because I'm hoping my stream actually will successfully encode this time. If not, I do have the recording right in front of me, and hopefully it didn't screw up. But thanks for joining me, and I will see you next time with another game. I'm not sure what I'm going to play because I thought I was going to play like 6 parts of this, but turns out it was only 4. Technically 5. But keep it rolling, and I will see you next time.